What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Rutgers Rundown podcast, episode 13. We are back after summer break. We are back with the Rutgers Rundown. Of course, Nick Hart alongside my co-host, Matthew Mangam. And Matt, we're back in full swing. Rutgers football going on, Rutgers soccer, both men's and women's going on. And I think we start with the soccer. The soccer has kind of been up and down, especially on the women's side. It's been a tough go for the Rutgers women's soccer team. Two straight draws with no score, mind you. Three straight draws, two straight with no score, and then obviously their last game against Providence was canceled due to weather. So that means one thing. Big Ten play starts this Friday at Ursack Field against Michigan State. And I don't know how, this team is going to fare against the Big Ten slate.
I'll start off with just a fact for you. Rutgers women's soccer hasn't scored a goal in 191 minutes, but they haven't scored from open play in 319 minutes. Now, open play means goals that don't come from dead ball situations, like a penalty, a corner kick, a free kick. So they scored their last goal against Princeton. It was a penalty in that 1-1 tie. But before that, they scored against Fairfield in the first half. And since that's 3 games without a goal. So they haven't scored a goal from open play in 319 minutes. That's 3 games, which is very, very concerning. And we knew the offense took a hit when Riley Turner graduated, went over to Angel City. We knew that was going to be a tough blow to the team. They brought in Nata Ramirez, transfer from Columbia. Looked good so far, 1 goal, 2 assists. And still got returners like Ashley Barron and Allie Post, but the offense just hasn't really had a bite at all this season. We saw against NJIT, they scored 3, but again, now you're seeing it. NJIT's NJIT, not a good opponent at all. And versing better opposition, the offense has struggled. They have had chances to score goals in these few games, but it hasn't looked great. It's a little concerning. The defense looks pretty solid, I'd say. But that offense, man, it's concerning coming with Big Ten play starting on Friday.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is when you look at this Rutgers women's soccer team, you always think Olivia Bodmer is going to be your wall back there. Has played very well, but again, even if she doesn't let up any goals, you still have to score one to win the game. Rutgers currently has 6 players all tied for the league, the team leading goals with 1 goal. So no player on the Scarlet Knights has multiple goals, and only one player, that being Nata Ramirez, has 2 assists. She leads the team, only player with multiple assists. It has been a very slow go of things to start out, and I think that is a good point to make. Yes, they beat NJIT. That's great. They beat Fairfield. That's great. But you drew against Princeton, Air Force, and UConn. And what was it, 300-something minutes they haven't scored a goal? I mean,
191, something like that. And 319 open play. Well, to get back to that point, I mean, you could even look at last year's team. Yes, it was a much better team. Well, it's easy to say now, looking at how the season is. Maybe Rutgers will get better, and we'll say the team is actually good. But looking at last season's team, I mean, Riley Turner, as her senior season, she only had 4 goals. So she's not really much of a goal scorer, but she is a playmaker. She had 11 assists last year, and she ended her career at Rutgers about, I believe it's a 34 assists. That's a program high. So she's not really much of a goal scorer either. And the leading goal scorer was Ashley Barron with 6 goals. So they didn't score a lot of goals last year either. But what they did was they would get the goal they need, a goal or 2, and the defense would see the game out from there. This year, the defense is good, I still think, but I'm a little concerned that Rutgers, 1, can't get the 1 goal they always need, and 2, the defense may not always see the game out. So it's a little early to tell. I don't want to say sound the panic button just yet, because, they've only played 5 games, and they were supposed to play Providence, but obviously that game got rained out. So they haven't played a game since August 31st. It's December 9th, so it's been 10 days. They play Michigan State this Friday, so I think this game we'll see if that long break helps them or more hurts them or helps them. Because, yes, they've had a lot of time to recover and, just get back to full fitness, but also they're not really, game ready, you could say. So we'll see how it really affects the team on Friday.
Yeah, and then just real quick, going back to Bodmer. She has been excellent to start the year. Only 1 goal against in the 4 games she's been in. She's faced 24 shots. Only 1 is leaked through. I mean, it's tough to play that well and you not have offense. You got to think that's got to be a little demoralizing as a player. Just when you've been playing well, but the team around you hasn't been able to get it done. But also shout out, as we said, to the defense. Defense has been solid. But yeah, I mean, a big test in Michigan State. I believe Rutgers knocked them out of the Big Ten tournament last year,
Yes,
if I remember
they did.
correctly. 2-1 in overtime.
Yeah, Michigan State at one point last year was ranked number 1 in the country, and Rutgers went to East Lansing and got a 1-1 tie there last year. That was in regular season play. But yeah, so Michigan State this year, they're 3-2-2. Last season they were 14-3-5. So they had a really good year last year. Not really the best start this year, but that still doesn't matter. This is still a really good team in the past that was number 1 ranked team at one point last year.
Yeah, and then we'll move over to men's soccer. It's been considerably better. 3-1-1. Big Ten play starting for them also on Friday against Penn State at URSAC Field. So we have a doubleheader at URSAC. Make sure, obviously, to keep it tuned right here. We'll have, I believe you will have the women's recap, and our very own Anthony Palumbo will have the men's recap. But take me through this, Matt. I mean, you've seen this team. I know you were down at Princeton the other day covering that game, the 3-1 loss. But what's the overall feel of this team been in their non-conference slate?
Honestly, I'm going to say it very, very good. Because, honestly, I covered the team for the last 2 seasons, and has not been good. So my expectations for this team this year were very low. They did bring in transfers like Yoshi Shelb, Dan Karsten, Andrew Kitch. These guys did score goals at the schools they came from, but they weren't Power 4 schools. These were guys that came from St. Francis, and Timo Jansen came from UAlbany, which also isn't a Power 4 school. So, yes, they were succeeding there, but I was curious how it was going to work in this conference. And yes, they haven't played Big Ten opponents yet, but they still played some good teams. I mean, Seton Hall, they're not a Power 4 school either, but they were really good last year when Rutgers played them. They were ranked. And other games you could look at, too. Providence, another Big East school. That's still a good result right there. So I'm curious to see how these transfers shape out in Big Ten play because they've had a great start to non-conference. And also, another thing worth mentioning is Rutgers has gone on the road and picked up good results. I mean, they beat James Madison and William Mary both on the road, both by scores of 4-1. Again, not the best opponents, but in my opinion, 2 years ago, Rutgers would not have gone wins there. They would have dropped that game or somehow tied it. So the thing is, I know they have offense. It's, again, the thing that worries me more is still the defense for this team because the last 2 years they've been one of the worst teams in the Big Ten defensively. And this year they have the offense, which is actually scoring a lot of goals. But it makes me wonder can the defense keep them in games still? The loss to Princeton, it's a loss, but I think it was an expected loss. It was a hard game to win. I think any result, even if they lost 1-0, would have been a good loss because I was at that game like you mentioned, and they definitely did play well. There was a chance where they could have got the game there. They were down 2-1, fell on the gas, right in the attack, and then Princeton scores a goal against the run of play, makes 3-1 late in the game, kind of takes the wind out of Rutgers' sails. So you play Penn State on Friday, a team that you've beat in the past. They're not really a Power 5, like a top-tier Big Ten opponent. If they can get a good result at home here in Big Ten play, even a tie is not a bad result because then they go and play Northwestern on the road. Northwestern's one of the best soccer teams in Big Ten. So, I feel confident to say that Rutgers could beat Penn State on Friday.
Yeah, and one thing very interesting about the schedule, especially the non-conference, you would think that when Rutgers plays some of these non-Power 5 schools, they would have more home games, but only one game at URSAC Field to start the year. As we said, they will be home against Princeton, and then they'll go out to Illinois to play Northwestern. But, yeah, I mean, you see a growth in this team. I remember last year it seemed like it was the opposite for the men's and the women's. The women's team was successful. The men's team you always looked at and you're like, all right, when are things going to turn around? But this year it's been a solid start, and you talk about some of the transfers. I mean, your leading goal scorer being an incoming transfer is pretty good recruiting if you ask me, with Shelb leading the team with 5 goals and an assist. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at with college sports, right? You have to be able to play the transfer portal right. No matter what school you are, you're always going to have people coming in, going out. So good job on Rutgers to fill those gaps and build a team that's been solid. And it's interesting, too, because you see both ends of the spectrum, both between men's and women's. The women's team brought in some new players, whether it's incoming freshmen, transfer portal acquisitions. They haven't really gelled yet. For the men's team, it seems like the opposite's true. It seems like they've meshed well together. Things are going right. And you kind of have to wonder, how long is it going to take for the other side in the women's team to get to that point,
Yeah, Coach O'Neill for women's soccer is always saying, both games, I remember against Air Force and UConn, both 0-0 ties at URSAC Field. The main thing he kept saying was the possession. They had to be better on the ball. I mean, Nick, you were at the UConn game with me. We both called for WRC. You remember they were playing very sloppy with their passes and stuff like that. Not good on the ball. For men's soccer, maybe they're not playing the best either on the ball, but they're passing much better. They flow through Yoshi Shelb. That guy is the number 10 for the team. Princeton knew his danger, and I have to say, they shut him down on Friday. I could see, they had guys ready to mark him out of the game. So, women's soccer, you're right. There's a lot of new players. Both teams have a lot of new players. That's definitely the truth. But men's team has gelled quicker and seen better results. The women's team, we've seen signs of it, but it's not fully there yet. It's still like a work in progress.
And not to completely go back to what we were talking about before in the women's team, but it seems like the possession, a lot of the game is spent in the midfield. There's not really a setup for Rutgers offensively. It seems like they take a shot, and there's no game plan. I don't want to say game plan, but there's no sets. They go down into their offensive end, and all of a sudden it's, all right, we're going to try to cross it to the middle, see if somebody's there. Nobody's there for the centering pass, and then it gets cleared out into the other end. And you just want to see, as the season goes on, a little bit more progression, a little bit more, like you said, like control of their possessions.
Yeah.
And just haven't really gotten to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if, like I said, they've had 10 days without a game. So I'm curious if Coach O'Neill's going to kind of use that time to, like, if you look at it, this can be also used as an advantage. They have time to really go over their games, go over film, and really in advance prepare for Big Ten play because, maybe it's better they're playing more and more games so they can have more, reps or everything. But also maybe if there's time to sit back and look at those 5 games and really analyze what you liked, what you didn't like. So on Friday, I'm curious to see how Rutgers rolls out. I expect them to have a fast start because they're coming out off a long break. They're eager to play Big Ten opener. But that's a big game right there. If they get a bad result there, it's not going to look good. It's not going to help their confidence. They got all that time off. You really curious to see how they come out on Friday.
Yeah, and listen, we have a lot of stuff going on. We have a doubleheader on Friday at USAC.
Mm-hmm.
Busch Campus is going to be rocking this weekend.
Yeah.
We have 2 games on Friday at USAC, and then, of course, Saturday, SHI Stadium, Rutgers football, who has already played 2 games. They're off to a 2-0 start to start the season. First game of the season, a little bit of a scare, 34-31 victory over Ohio. They get things done much easier this past week, 45-17 over Miami of Ohio, which, mind you, not 2 easy opponents.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams, yeah, they're MAC teams, whatever, but those are the 2 best teams in the MAC conference last year. That was the MAC championship. Ohio defeated Miami of Ohio, but it's been an interesting start to football. You see the record, you see 2-0, and you think, oh, great, team's playing well. But if you watch the games, you go, ooh, we are going to have some problems if things keep going the way they are going. Obviously, it seems like the past few years the goal is, hey, let's get 6 wins and let's get to a bowl game. And listen, off to a good start, 2 wins, and the offense has really produced. They believe 30 points in their last 6 games dating back to last season. They've played well. The problem, which I don't think anybody would have expected this year, is the defense. The defense is not playing well. They're not generating pressure, giving up big plays, can't contain mobile quarterbacks. And this is against non-conference opponents. Just wait until, I don't even know. I mean, you can go as soon as wait until Friday, September 19th when Iowa comes in. That could be a problem. And then wait till Oregon comes in. That's going to be a problem. Wait till you go play Illinois on the road. That's going to be a problem. So you don't want to look too far ahead, but Rutgers football has definitely given fans some mental gymnastics, we'll say, through the first 2 games.
So do you think like it's a bit of an overreaction to say that like the defense looks like as bad as it used to a long time ago, like in like 2015, 2016 time? Like, is that an overreaction to say? Because you remember the defense being really, really bad.
I don't know if I'd go that bad, but I would say within the past 4 or 5 years, this is probably their worst defense.
Yeah,
maybe not that far. Maybe 2 or 3 years.
I do also feel like fans are overreacting after only 2 games. Like this
is not a good defense.
Like, okay, I mean there was slight improvement against Miami, Ohio, but
I mean
DeQuan Finn still had it.
Score wise, yeah, they kept him out of the end zone, but it took them 4 quarters to get a sack.
Yeah.
Granted, Bo Masco has the interception. Nice play, first takeaway of the year. But other than that, the defense didn't really do a lot. I mean, DeQuan Finn, I'll put this into perspective for you. DeQuan Finn, in his first game for Miami of Ohio, played against a fellow Big Ten opponent in Wisconsin. They lost 17-0. DeQuan Finn threw for 83 yards. Okay? Against the Big Ten team. DeQuan Finn, against Rutgers, threw for 130 yards on 2 passes. 2. Not 2 quarters, not 2 passes. He threw for 130 yards against the Big Ten defense.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be one of the better defenses. Yes, could it be an overreaction? Maybe the guys aren't again meshed well together. Maybe it's just going to take some time. But I mean, how much more time can you need? You know, you're starting Big Ten play. 10 days from today, you start on the blackout game against Iowa. You know, granted, Iowa's not the best offensive team, but I'll tell you what, they're going to be a hell of a lot better than Norfolk State, Ohio, and Miami of Ohio. I think the bigger disappointment. I don't know if it's an overreaction, more so an over, or I don't know how to put it, because the offseason was so promising with bringing in guys like Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neal to a Rutgers defensive line that historically has not been able to sack the quarterback. And they were supposed to come in, they're supposed to be game records. I mean, between the two of them, I want to say 21 or 21 and a half sacks between those two guys last year. And guess what they've done since they've gotten here? Jack squat.
Yeah.
They have not been able to get to the quarterback. Yeah, the pressures are there, but guess what? Pressures are great and all, but if it doesn't end up with the quarterback on the ground, behind the line of scrimmage, it doesn't count as a sack. It took Rutgers, 8 quarters to get their first sack? 8 quarters against 2 mid-majors and a defensive line that was supposed to be revamped, the best we've seen in years. Now, I will say this. The one thing, the saving grace of this Rutgers team is the offense.
Yeah.
I can genuinely sit here and say I would have full faith in the offense to win a shootout. I have full faith in the offense to win a 45-41 game or a 34-31 game like we saw a couple weeks ago. This offense has a passing game that Rutgers hasn't seen in probably a decade. Ethan Kaliakmanis has been able to throw the ball well, and this is his second season under Kirk Soraka here at Rutgers, third season overall because he had him in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And you could tell. He looks comfortable back there. He knows his reads. He knows where he's going with the football. Doesn't really put the football in harm's way. And oh, by the way, you have Ian Strong, DT Sheffield, and KJ Duff as your receivers. Ian Strong, we said it last year, we'll say it again this year. He's going to be a beast.
Yeah.
He's a jump ball threat. He's a big guy, 6'3", very physical wide receiver. And he's now one of those guys where even when he's not open, he's open. You could throw him a jump ball and you have full faith that he has at least a 50-50 chance. I mean, you saw it so much so against Miami of Ohio. I think Rutgers drew 3 defensive pass interference penalties because their defensive backs were so, and them being Miami of Ohio, they were so scared of letting the receivers get past them, or they were just simply overpowered by them. They had to interfere with them. The running game has been what it's been. You have guys like Antoine Raymond, C.J. Campbell, Jashawn Benjamin, who you kind of knew what the running back room was going to look like this year. But I don't think anybody really thought that Ethan and the wide receivers were going to look as good as they have 2 games into the season.
Yeah, I mean, and also just on Saturday, Ethan, he threw career-high 4 touchdowns, the first Rutgers quarterback to do that since Chris Lovino in 2015. And he's throwing a touchdown pass for the last 8 games, which is the first Rutgers quarterback to do it since Gary Nova did it in 2012 for 12 straight games. So you see Ethan just he's putting up numbers or just doing things that Rutgers QBs haven't done in decades, you could say. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of promising with that, and I agree. I think kind of if things stay the same way, buckle up, Rutgers fans. A lot of games are going to be shootouts this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a roller coaster of emotions, for lack of better words, because I don't see a lot of Rutgers victories that are going to be like 17-10, honestly.
Yeah.
You look at some of their wins last year. They beat, this is going to be excluding non-conference games, except for Virginia Tech. Rutgers, Virginia Tech, 26-23. Rutgers, Washington, 21-18. Nebraska, Rutgers, 14-7. They lost that game, but still. you didn't see a lot of shootouts until towards the later part of the schedule. You know, you got to the Minnesota, they won 26-19, still kind of low scoring. They beat Maryland 31-17. Obviously, the infamous Illinois game. Rutgers loses 38-31. You put up 41 points against Michigan State. And then, of course, the bowl. I think the bowl game was really a precursor to what this season would have been. Looking back on it now, that was a 44-41 game. Virtually no defense. Electric offense. And, you know, Ethan played his game. He threw the ball well. He ran the ball well. And I think that's another aspect of his game that I want to kind of get into. Because you look at Ethan and you don't think runner. You know, you don't think rushing quarterback. But I think in today's game of college football, and I think this even translates well to the pros, you don't have to be necessarily a rushing quarterback to run the ball 5 to 10 times a game for 30 to 40 yards. Every quarterback seems to do it now. Just think in your head. Think about some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Joe Burrow, what does he do?
Yeah.
Runs the ball.
Yeah.
Josh Allen runs the ball. Not rushing quarterbacks by any means, but they run the ball.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes runs the ball.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels runs the ball. And I mean, you can even say Lamar Jackson. He's run it less, but he was a rushing quarterback when he came into the league. Now he's just a quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, and I the one thing I do love about Ethan, I say love with a little hesitancy because I love it and I hate it. He's not afraid to absorb contact, which I love because he fights for the hard yards. It's Rutgers football. It's hard-nosed football. But you see him take some hits, and you're like,
injuries.
You're like, I kind of wish you would have went down there.
Yeah.
Because you start to look at that and you say, all right, God forbid Ethan does go down. You have AJ Surace. No knock on AJ Surace, but hasn't really played college football.
What are you gonna? What's his expectations like because of that? You know, it's very low.
Outside of a spring football game, what college football experience does AJ Surace have?
Yeah.
Now, not gonna say, he's gonna be terrible, but you would like to see your starting quarterback stay healthy for the remainder of the season. Which brings me to another point. We talk about injuries. Rutgers already dealing with injuries. I feel like every year, this is the same story for Rutgers. It's just injuries here, injuries there. We saw last game, Dante Chin, starting lineman, go out. Obviously, no clear designation by head coach Greg Schiano of what that injury is and what it looks like for the rest of the season. But the way it sounded, doesn't sound like we're going to see Dante Chin coming back for a while. But I want to talk about these injuries for a second, Matt, because I feel like with Rutgers, we see it so much every year. I mean, last year, pretty much the entire tight end room was out. You had Mo Toure, who was out last year with an injury. Obviously, he's not here anymore, but he was out all last year. Who was the defensive back transfer that got hurt?
This year or last year?
This year. I'll look that up. But, I mean, what could it be that Rutgers just finds? Is it just bad luck?
I don't know. Honestly. Is it that? Like, is it like
Doug Blue Eli.
Doug Blue Eli. Yeah,
out for the year.
Noah Shaw now too.
Yeah, I mean it's just, I don't know. It seems absurd to me that every year Rutgers has so many different injuries. And listen, to their credit, they always find a way to get things done. But I gotta know what goes on. Because every year there seems to be so many season-ending injuries. And you hope that the main guys stay healthy. Because when you look at the statistics for Rutgers, yes, Ethan's been great. The wide receivers have been great. Here's my concern. There hasn't been a lot of spreading the ball around from Ethan. All right? Ethan has completed a pass to...
Sorry, I'm laughing at
6 different receivers. That is all that Ethan has completed a pass to. Now, real quick, I'm hoping you can get the names because I'm pretty sure you can. Can you tell me the leading receiver?
Ian Strong.
Number 2.
Duff.
Number 3.
Sheffield.
Number 4.
Kenny Fletcher.
That was a good pull. And then one's a running back.
You said Raymond.
And then Colin Weber. So we look at this, right? 16, 11, 9, what's that, 20, 36 completions out of the 44 have been to guys named either Ian Strong, KJ Duff, or DT Sheffield. Now, I want to get your opinion on this because I have my own, query about this, if you will. What happens when teams start to put their number one defensive back on Ian Strong or KJ Duff? Or what happens when they double Ian Strong? Who becomes the new number one, and then who takes over the spot of the guy becoming the new number one?
Yeah.
If Ian Strong's taken out of the game, all right, KJ Duff or DT are the new number ones. But then who steps up behind them? You can't play the game with just two receivers.
Yeah.
Is it going to be somebody like Ben Black, who hasn't really been a huge part of the game offensively? Who is that going to be? And then the same question begs, God forbid, if there's an injury. What happens then? And that's why I am extremely, extremely cautiously optimistic about this team. Yes, the offense looks great. The defense scares me. But one of two things is true right now. One, they've played non-conference opponents. And two, it's a small sample size. Not to say that the success isn't going to continue, but what happens when ultimately one of those guys is taken out of the equation, whether it's a defensive scheme, a double, what have you?
I think you're the first person to mention this. I haven't heard any people talk about, everyone's like, oh, the offense is great, but no one's saying, okay, but, where's Benjamin Black? Shiano did mention it after the Miami-Ohio game on Saturday. He's getting involved more, but, everyone's talking about the offense this, the offense that, but no one's saying, where are the other guys? Yeah, so that's a good take, Nick. I see your thoughts on that.
And the reason I think about this is because guess what? The first team they play in Big Ten play is a very stingy defense.
Yeah.
Iowa is not a great offensive team by any stretch, but they're good consistently on defense. So you know that Iowa is going to come in here with a game plan for Ian Strong, KJ Duff, and DT Sheffield. Whether that's, hey, we're going to double Ian, take him out of the equation, we'll worry about DT and KJ. Or it could be, we trust our number one guy to shut down Ian. Then who becomes the next guy up? Shiano always says, next guy up mentality, next guy up mentality. Who is that going to be? Because we haven't seen it. I feel like it could be Ben Black, but also you look at it and you say, all right, it kind of seems like Athan's found his guys.
Yeah.
He's got his three favorite targets. How does his play change when those guys may not be in the game?
Remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I think that's something that really has to be looked at. I think it's something that could be a problem. Thankfully it's not a problem right now, but that is something that Rutgers fans need to look at because it's all well and good now. The team looks great. Don't want to be the the cloud on the ray of sunshine. No pun intended because of the rain delay we had on Saturday. But you got to think about these things. And ultimately, as we said, this season, yes, I know Rutgers won 7 games the year before, 7 games last year, whatever it was. This year, win 6 games. Get to a bowl game. It's a good season. So I'm going to tell you what. You're not going to beat Oregon. You're not going to beat Ohio State. You're not going to beat Penn State. Illinois is going to be tough on the road. Washington's going to be a hard game on the road. Minnesota's going to be a tough game on the road.
Yeah.
You have to play your A game because somewhere in that mix, you got to find 3 other wins. Yes, you should beat Maryland. You should beat Purdue. Then you got to win one. I don't want to call it gutsy game, but you got to win one game that you might not be favored in.
Yeah.
And we haven't really seen that from Rutgers in the past, I don't know how many years. But hey, 2-0 for now. Hopefully 3-0 on Sunday or on Saturday. And then just like that, Big Ten play starts. The blackout game against Iowa, approximately 10 days from today. I cannot wait for that game because Washington was an electric atmosphere last year. I know you were at that game, but we'll be in the press box for that game, which is awesome. But Matt, that is our first episode back for the new 2025, fall semester.
Yeah.
Great to be back. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can find us on YouTube at The Daily Targum, and of course on Instagram at The Daily Targum as well, and online, dailytargum.com. So long for now. Nick Hart, Matt Mangam signing off for episode number 13 of the Rutgers Rundown podcast.